if you look very closely on these two hair strands in front of the figure, these two right here, she has these hair ties, keeping her hair neat. But if you look very carefully, these two parts, they are semi-transparent, and there appears to be no hair, nothing at all inside. It almost feels like Hokusai made a very bad decision with her haircut, and she regretted it, so she decided to use something to join it back. Hi and welcome back to the channel. I'm Steven, today with a figure unboxing as well as a review. This one right here, Good Smile Company's 1x7 scale Katsushika Hokusai Saber class version from Fate Grand Order or FGO. She was released back in late February. I picked her up sometime around the middle of last month in March, and then she arrived more than 2 weeks ago, but really I needed a break. It isn't easy to film an unboxing and a review like this one, all the b-rolls and stuff with my setup, I need time for that. And before we begin unboxing, there's one figure I would like to bring up, Phat Company's Katsushika Hokusai. That one was a foreigner class version, released around October last year. A number of you watching this channel actually bought that figure and you were very happy with it. Congrats on that purchase, because that is a really expensive figure. I have not purchased one yet. Hopefully I will do so as soon as possible before the value goes up. Unfortunately, I have also heard stories of that figure having quality control issues typical of Phat Company, so hopefully I'll be lucky with that figure. We will see. One more thing about this figure right here, this Saber version by Good Smile. One of you commented in my post, I forgot it was here on YouTube or in Facebook, saying that you were afraid to take the figure out of the box because the figure looks very difficult to assemble, so many parts. Let's give it a try and hopefully everything happens well without any incidents. And that concludes the unboxing process of this figure. I actually spent almost half an hour assembling this thing. Yeah, almost 30 minutes, because I do not want to break anything. I was being extra gentle, extra careful. I mean, you look at this octopus over here, Toto-sama, I think. It is holding a calligraphy brush, and this thing is so thin and so fragile, and there is no way I'm going to use extra force and risk breaking something during assembly. So when one of you told me in one of my posts, you commented, you said that you bought this figure but you were unwilling to take it out from the box after seeing the contents, you were too afraid to put it together. Yes, I totally hear you. I already experienced it just earlier. This was very difficult to assemble. So to me, it feels like Good Smile has quite the penchant for making figures that are very complicated, very sophisticated, and has multiple parts to put together. A lot of them are actually FGO figures. One of the more notorious ones was this figure of Saber Mordred. I actually knocked off her thumb. Yeah, and I had to glue it back, but nothing was broken, fortunately. And Okita Soji Third Ascension, that one wasn't easy either to put together. So Good Smile likes to make these kinds of complex figures and make you sweat when you assemble them. But I do appreciate their effort though, for putting in so much attention to detail with these FGO figures. That is why I love their figures when it comes to the FGO franchise. Back to this figure, this Katsushika Hokusai Saber class version at 1/7 scale stands at 24 centimeters tall. And that is all the way up to the top of this sword handle over here. So if you deduct the base and the sword handle and maybe the ornaments on her head, she is more like 21 centimeters tall, making her closer to 1/8 instead of 1/7 scale, unless the Saber version of Hokusai is shorter than the foreigner version. I'm not sure, I did not check the character profiles and their specifications on their height and weight and those things, you know. For example, Da Vinci, her rider class and her caster class obviously are very different. One is a loli, one is a more mature looking woman. So yeah, I'm not sure if the Saber class of Hokusai is actually shorter than the foreigner version. But if you look at the Phat Company version, that is closer to actual 1/7 scale, that is way taller than this version. However, does that mean this figure is a bad purchase just because she is slightly smaller than 1/7? No, not at all. This is a great figure. She looks amazing on a shelf. She stands out a lot just because her outfit, her swimsuit design is kind of unique. Like, it is like nothing I've seen before in any anime characters, and a very questionable design. I mean, surely from an aesthetic standpoint, it looks amazing. From a functional standpoint, well, let's not question anime logic, right? Because you are going to sink if you swim in this thing. Yeah, this swimsuit, you jump into a pool or into the sea, you're going to sink for sure. This whole thing will weigh you down, right? And the second thing is regarding her shoes. Yeah, how is she even comfortable with that? But once again, let's not question any further about anime logics. Okay, with this figure, the official pricing is closer to 27,000 Japanese yen, if I'm not mistaken. I got her for almost 23,000 yen, barely a month after release, right? I did not pre-order. I mentioned it before why I don't pre-order many of my figures. Yeah, so barely a month after release, I already got an almost 20% discount from 27k down to 23k. That is before shipping, of course. However, I do believe that her price will go even lower if you wait for another month to 3 months. Maybe you can get her for 20,000 yen. That would be a great price for this figure. I can totally recommend that at around 22,000 yen for this figure. Alright. More about the assembly process. What is it that was so difficult? Yes, because this whole giant piece of dress over here, I just call it a dress, right? This giant piece of dress over here, kimono dress, it is one single block of PVC plastic with all of the swords already attached and glued to it, and there are 2 packs on the side which you need to insert at a very precise angle. If you are not precise and you try to force your way in, you are bound to break something. For example, you accidentally broke a katana off the dress. The katana will break off and then you need to glue it back. That is not nice at all, right? That was my major fear when assembling the figure. I took over 10 minutes on this one large part on the side of the figure alone. The second thing has to do with this Toto-sama, this octopus over here. For one thing, it is holding this calligraphy brush over here, obviously very fragile. And number two, there are two pegs I need to insert it into as well. One is on the back of the figure, that was an easy one. And there is another peg in front over here which connects to this katana in front. Yeah. So as you can see over here, the peg does not fully go into the katana. I'm not sure if it is supposed to go in all the way, but judging from the thickness of this sword, I don't think so. You're supposed to be able to see some peg outside the figure, and that is fine totally because you can't see it from the front of the figure. And even if I'm supposed to push it all the way in, I wouldn't do that, because if I were to take this figure apart, it would be a lot easier to disassemble this figure rather than risking breaking something, you know. That is a very thin plastic peg over there. And lastly, about the two hair strands in front, they have metal pegs, you won't break them, and the diameter on each side is different. So if you find it difficult to push it all the way in, or it is somehow too loose, then you know that you have mixed up the right and the left one. Do try it and don't force it all the way in, right? Yeah, so that is about the several warnings you need to watch out for when assembling this figure. The main takeaway message is be very patient during assembly. Yeah. Alright, so before we talk about the figure, a quick mention about her box. This is what her box looks like, right? I would say this is not the most attractive box in the world, but this is surely one of the toughest I've seen yet for a windowed box. This thing is so tough that it will take a lot of effort from the postman, from the courier and delivery guy to hit your box and kick it around in order to inflict even a bit of dent on it. Yes, this thing is very hard, and I'm very impressed with this box over here. We need more boxes like this for anime figures. It will take a lot of effort to damage this thing, seriously. So this is a very good box. This is like 9.5 or even 10 out of 10 box right here. Moving on to the actual figure itself, the sculpture, no problems at all over here. I compare her to the official artwork of the character as well as the official product photos of this figure. They are very similar. I could barely spot any differences. So that is a good thing as usual, but Good Smile isn't the kind of company to mess up the sculpt of a figure. So this is to be expected. This meets my expectations, but I wouldn't say it exceeds my expectations because, well, the sculpture of this figure, it is not the most detailed I've seen in scale figures. Well, for a good reason, because this is a swimsuit figure. And we're not talking about super detailed outfit, you know. After all, there is only so much details you can cram into a swimsuit figure. Yes, this is technically a swimsuit figure, and for such figures, you won't see that much details either in terms of the weathering and shading in the paintwork. There is a very mild, a very gradual shading on the purple hair strands over here. You can see a very slight gradient over there. But that is about it, not much shading, and that is fine because the amount of details on the outfit is amazing. This is more to decal work, right, instead of paint job, but still Good Smile did an amazing job with the decal placement all over the figure, all over her outfit. And especially with these two blue color straps in front over here. Yeah, they look like some kind of oil painting or watercolor painting. It looks very striking and it looks nothing like every other kimono figure out there, yukata figures as well. So I think these two straps over here on her outfit, this is the most striking and the most unique part about this figure. It makes this figure look a bit different from others, those with the very similar Japanese theme design, you know. The decal placement on this figure, no matter where you look, is impeccable. Every single katana behind her, that octopus next to her, Toto-sama, and then her outfit overall, the decal placement is amazing, very precise, and on top of that, the paintwork, no flaws at all. Zero flaws, no paint bleeding, no paint transfer, no scratches, no dust spots either. And on top of that, the seam lines on every part of the figure is very neat as well. You don't see excess glue or glue stains coming out from the gaps, seam lines, you know, none of that sort. So this is great quality control coming from Good Smile. I'm very happy as a FGO fan. And on top of that, every single part that you need to assemble and put together, they fit just nice, you know. They are not too tight and not too loose either. So it wouldn't be impossible to take apart this figure and put her back in the box. Yeah, the parts fit very nicely. it might feel tight initially, but that is most likely because your angle of insertion with each pack isn't precise enough. I can't emphasize this enough. Your assembly process, the insertion of the packs must be very precise in terms of the angulation. Yeah. Otherwise, it might feel very tight. And when it feels tight to you, you are more inclined to use additional force. And in the process, you end up breaking something. One last thing is regarding the base and the overall stability of the figure. This is where I have a bit of question marks over here. Alright, the base design is actually great, right? This is something I don't see very often. It is almost like a very solid block of acrylic and it is rather heavy. A heavy base is always a good thing. It weighs the figure down and it increases the stability of the figure. That is always a good thing. Not to mention, yeah, the artwork over there, it looks like watercolor or oil painting. It is a very unique look for the base. The two metal foot pegs is where I have a bit of question marks over here. One in each leg, and the metal foot pegs are very thin in diameter, understandably because her feet are very small. But I do question about the long-term durability of the figure. Maybe it is unnecessary worry on my part because there is one huge heavy part behind the figure. This figure is very back heavy. As you can see from the side, it almost looks like the figure is leaning backwards, but this is what the figure looks like by default, right? Fortunately, this dress over here is actually leaning against the base, so this thing is actually providing support, and not all of the stress or the weight of the figure is placed on just two legs, two very thin foot pegs. So I guess that the figure might be fine in the long term, but it still looks very scary to me, to be honest. Yeah, so very back heavy figure, and when you shake the figure, yeah, you see it wobbles quite a bit because the foot peg is very thin, right? So this is my main concern with this figure, but it has to do with the character design. Nothing much can be done about it, yeah. The second questionable thing about this figure is something I have mentioned in the intro. Her hair appears disconnected from her head. Yeah, it looks really weird to me, as if she had a bad haircut. She regretted it and she decided to join it back in some way. So I don't know why Good Smile used a transparent part over here. To me, it is a very weird decision. They could have used an ordinary opaque part and the hair strands over there will look a lot more natural. But this is just my opinion anyway, a subjective one. At the end of this review, can I recommend this figure of Katsushika Hokusai Saber Class version by Good Smile? It is an absolute yes. In fact, this is a very good alternative to the Phat Company version if you couldn't afford that one, or you could only afford one, not both. That Phat Company version, to be fair, she has her own unique selling points and ideally you will want to have both, right? That is a foreigner class, this is a Saber class. So to me, they are different characters. Yeah. The Phat Company version, I mean, what can you ask for, right? You get that Kimetsu no Yaiba, water breathing style dragon behind her. That itself is a good reason to buy that version, as pricey as it may seem. But Phat Company and their quality control issues, yeah, it is kind of a gacha when you buy their figures, you know. If you're lucky, you get the good one. If not, you have to live with it. So with this figure of Saber Hokusai, it is a recommended one from me. If you can find one for 20 to 23k, go ahead and purchase one. You won't regret it. But please take extra care in assembling this figure. And that is about it for today's video. Thank you very much for watching. If you enjoyed this review and found it helpful, please do subscribe to this channel and give this video a like. It would help me a lot. And until then, see you again very soon. Goodbye.